Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're doing a little bit of a continuation of last week's episode, but we're continuing. So this is why your life looks fine on the outside and you know it, but in some ways on the inside, things feel a little off. We're going to get into that because, as you all know, I take many of these episodes and create them based on conversations that I've had with people and I'm having with people in my life, whether they be in my practice or in my personal life. And this is one that's been coming up for people. This sort of existential stress of, I know things are good. Like, I know things are good, but I just feel like they're not. And when I see themes and patterns in conversations that I'm having, I'm going to talk about them on the podcast with all of you and give you some solutions. Okay. The thought is, or the thinking is, I shouldn't feel this way. Like, I shouldn't feel this way. Last week we talked about, I've worked on this. Why is this happening again? Right. This week it is, I shouldn't feel like this. You know, the marriage is okay. The kids are okay. Work's okay. You know, everything's okay. Things aren't great, wonderful, but things aren't terrible either. Right. I mean, nothing is on fire in your life. Nobody left you. You're not dealing with any trauma right now. Things are good. You've got food in the fridge, you've got money in the bank, and really for many, many, many of you, a life that most people would trade places with. There's a lot of good stuff that's happened, yet something just is feeling off. And it's like I said, it's not trauma, it's not crisis level, it's not running to put out a fire. Just it's this feeling of, and I've felt this before. It's just this feeling of disconnected. It's this feeling of like, just you feel flat. And maybe there's a little bit of guilt for feeling dissatisfied or a feeling of guilt for being disconnected because you know that you, air quote, shouldn't feel this way because life is actually pretty good for you compared to people maybe in your country and in the rest of the world. Because, like I said, from the outside, things look perfectly fine. So I want to talk about why this happens. And I think it happens more than people say, which I love because this is what comes up in my conversations with clients. And in the psychological safety of a therapy or a coaching session, we have these conversations. I think many of us in real life feel weird and kind of guilty to talk about it with friends or even maybe family members. It's like, because I should be appreciative. I have all these wonderful things.
Yeah.
I have a job. My kids are healthy. I'm not dealing with a whole lot. Yeah, we got some stuff, but it's being managed. And I think people are misdiagnosing the problem for themselves.
Okay.
What are you thinking?
Well,
You're staring at me.
I mean, for some people, this might never even be a thought in their head, right? Like they might not even consider the fact that it could be any different, right? Like they look at it, it's relative to the rest of the people around them or the rest of the world, right? Like I'm like my problems, nothing, not even a drop in the bucket.
And these people are grateful, and that's the guilt comes in a little bit because they're like, what is up with me? And sometimes it's a little bit of shame. Like, I should feel grateful. Well, I am grateful. It's not about that. They have gratitude. They are aware. They are aware
But
of
some
what they
people might
have.
not even think about this. They might not even, the thought of it.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well, there are
could
probably
be
not
better.
people who are going to listen to this episode.
Well,
And
there's millions of them, right? Like it's like a lot of people just don't even think to think it. Like they don't even know, those thoughts don't cross their mind.
I think you spend any kind of time with yourself, like, what's going on with me right now? What is it? And I'm talking about people who, for the most part, like I just said, life is okay. I mean, it's not great. Maybe they're not rich. They have bills. They've got debt.
Yeah.
They've got stuff. They're managing it. Their marriage isn't wonderful. It's not great. Maybe they're in a really rough season right now, but no one's leaving. They're not worried about getting separated. They're both in a bad mood all the time. Maybe maybe you're just busy running around like chickens with your heads cut off.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're describing drifting, right? Like you're just adrift.
You're drifting from your relationship right now, but you don't think it's always going to be that way.
Yeah.
And you're not worried. It's not like this big stuff, like I just said.
Yeah.
Maybe you've got a kid who, you're dealing with some it's a spectrum disorder issues. You're managing it. You found a psychiatrist. You found someone for them. okay, you're getting that under control. You've got the doctors in place. Like it's all being managed. And it's
Yeah.
like, I should and I ought to. And I am grateful for the services that are available to me, that I have health insurance, that I can do these things. Maybe it's not the doctor I want to see because I have to be on a freaking HMO because the PPO deductible is ridiculous right now,
Mm,
and I do have something. There are people I can go to a large hospital system and I can get into that system and they'll see my kid.
yeah.
My parents are okay. I'm not dealing with aging parents right now. They're older, but they're pretty vibrant and they're living their own best life. I think most of us grew up being taught a pretty simple formula about life that do the work hard, make good decisions, build this good life for yourself, and then you'll be happy. You'll be happy. It's kind of the American dream, air quote American dream, that many of us grew up with. Do good work, go to school, get a good job, and then you'll be able to buy that house, a white picket fence. Well, has that changed in this country? And especially in the last few years. I mean, that's not realistic for so many Americans now.
Yeah.
And so, I think the goalposts have changed, especially for the Gen Zers. It's like maybe be able to afford rent to live in a condo that's halfway decent for you. I mean, I really think it's changed. But even that population's like, life's okay. I have some money on the side to go to the bars on the weekends or to join the pickleball group, and what is it? I have a decent job. I'm not making all the money. I'm not challenged the way I really want to be. And I have something, right? And I think for many of us, for a while, especially for our generation, we're Gen X and baby boomers, that formula did make sense to us, right? The problem is that, many of us have actually done those things. And this is what I see with my clients. They've done those things, right? They built a career, they married that person that they wanted to marry, they raised the kids, they bought the house and they checked all the boxes. See, that's the thing is I think many of us have a resume or a list, and we have a list of boxes that need to be checked. And I've heard my clients say to me over many, many years, like, I've checked all the boxes. Or when I went to marry that person, they checked all the boxes for me at the time. They fulfilled my resume, and I felt really good about the decisions I was making. But then years later, people sit with me and go, why doesn't this feel the way I thought it should feel? Why doesn't it feel the way it's supposed to feel? And this is particularly common in midlife.
Yeah.
And this is what can lead, as many of us know, what we call midlife crisis. What can lead to that? Because it's like, why do I don't feel more alive? What's going on? Right? And not because midlife is a crisis. I mean, that's a familiar sort of a tropey thing that we say, but when we're younger, we can tell ourselves we have goals. And when we're younger, we tell ourselves, well, I'll feel better and I'll feel because I'm still working. I'm still walking up the stairs. I'll feel better when I graduate, when I get married. Then it'll all come together and I get that job. When I lose the weight, when I get promoted, when I finally have enough money for a down payment to buy a house. When the kids get older. When the kids get older, I'll feel differently than how I feel right now.
Yeah.
When I finally have enough money. But eventually, because many of those things do happen for many, many people, they come to me, they're like, but the discomfort is still there. The something inside of me is still there. So now what? Now what do I do?
Yeah. Well, what if?
Is this something you cannot relate to at all?
No, I'm just wondering if the blueprint,
This whole episode?
the blueprint is completely wrong. What if the blueprint's wrong? Because the blueprint you're describing was created back in what, the 1920s, right? The expectation.
Well, just change my examples to your life today. Change the
Well,
examples.
but
If this is something that resonates for you, just change the examples.
well,
Like I just said with Gen Zers, like maybe it's not buying a house right now. Maybe it's just getting into a better apartment building.
but okay, so but
Maybe it's going to college.
that's a small section of what you're talking about in terms of the population. Like we still buy into that blueprint that our parents lived, that our grandparents lived, that was designed back in the 20s. Work hard, do your best, buy a house maybe, white picket fence, eventually you'll retire, you've saved all this money, now you can travel, Now you maybe buy a second house in Florida, or maybe you don't. You hang out with
Arizona.
you hang out with your grandkids. Maybe that blueprint, which has been something that that's the only blueprint you and I have ever heard of, right? That's anybody has ever heard of that up until now. It's starting to shift a little bit.
I think it's part of the American dream. I've heard of it. Not everybody I know does that.
Well, I don't know that that's not really the point, though. The point is that that's the blueprint for air
Right.
quote success. And if those are the boxes you're trying to check, and now you're 22 and you're coming up in 2026, I think that, like you said, the goalposts, they haven't just shifted. I think they've been taken out of the stadium. Like, I think it's a whole different
I
ball
agree.
game
I agree.
completely.
I do agree with that.
And so to think that you're going to like eventually have enough money for a down payment for a house in a world where now 20% is a whole different number.
Right.
I mean, the decimal points actually moved on this one now.
Well, they're not putting down 20%.
Right. So then do we need to shift the mindset of like, well, the expectation for this blueprint that was designed way back in the day, throw that away.
Okay, so take a 27-year-old who is working towards that, and maybe they're not buying their first home at 27, but they're buying their first home at, and this is realistic, at 35 now, 37. And they don't have money from mom and dad. They're not getting a big chunk of change because they don't have wealthy parents. They don't have generational wealth. I'm not talking about those individuals. I'm talking about people who've just worked hard, scraped to get by and saved the pennies. And they're not buying a house at 27, 28. They're doing it at 35, 38.
Right.
And
so you're already shifting the plan.
Okay, 10 years.
Yeah.
And they're able to do it. So let's just take it. Let's take a younger millennial or a Gen Zer, and they are able to do it. What I'm talking about is something deeper, Tim. It's more like, okay, they've done it. And, maybe they're not having 4 kids because they can't afford it. They're having 1 or 2 if they want to have children.
Yeah.
Or, some people are saying, I'm just going to rent. I don't want to pay those taxes anymore. I'm just going to rent for my life. Whatever it is that each person chooses to do, but they have a job, they get 2 weeks vacation, they have PTO, and maybe they're not going to, they're not flying to Europe or they're not flying to the Caribbean, but they can go somewhere in the Midwest. They can rent a cabin. They can do some things.
Sure.
They are doing the things, and their marriage is good. They like their in-laws. Things are okay. They have good kids. They like their neighbors. They play pickleball. They play mahjong on Tuesday nights. Then they laugh with people.
Yeah.
I think that there's something deeper there that's going on.
Oh,
that's what I'm talking about.
1,000%.
It's like, why is this all there is? I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I've heard that question in my practice over the past 30 years.
Yeah.
Is this all there is? It's truly an existential crisis.
Yeah.
And that's why I love that movie with one of my favorite all-time movies is with Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt, As Good as It Gets. And it was such a funny scene to me where Jack Nicholson goes into a psychiatrist's office in Manhattan because he has a horrible OCD. I don't think you remember. It's one of my favorite movies. He's in the waiting room in the office in Manhattan to see a psychiatrist, and it's full of patients. And it's like, you have people in there for a reason. I mean, people look glum and miserable waiting to see their psychiatrist. And he walks and he stands there and he says to all of them, "Is this as good as it gets?"
It's a good question.
Like, oh my God. And I think as a therapist, I just thought that was hysterical.
Yeah.
But it also made me laugh because there was truth behind it.
Yeah.
We're all in many ways struggling on this life's journey in so many ways.
Yeah.
And is this as good as it gets? That's what I'm talking about. Something deeper.
Yeah.
Something deeper.
Yeah. I mean,
I almost think it's like a spiritual crisis for people.
I mean, that's another episode.
I know, but I can't not say it.
Yeah.
And it does. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about spirituality, something. So we're going to get into it because there's something deeper that's happening here for us.
Yeah.
Or to us.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think most people who feel this way, they are dealing with the clinical depression. I don't think these people are not broken. They're not broken individuals. And I don't think that they necessarily need to sort of blow up their lives, right? I think many people are experiencing something else. They've just become disconnected from themselves. And I think something beyond themselves, not because they're weak, not because they've been, too busy, but they have been spending time sort of some people are trying to keep up with the Joneses, like go, 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 busy, busy, busy. I mean, they would say they haven't been too busy. And when I talk to them, it's like, well, I've spent these years being busy trying to work and make money and producing and maybe performing, and managing and surviving,
Yeah.
right? Busy being responsible with all that I just said for years. And sometimes it's for decades with people, and somewhere along the way they stop and what they have said to me is, well, I'm asking them, okay, what do you actually want with your life? What do you want? And
I think that's my point.
many times
Yeah.
and they look at me and it's like, no one's ever asked me that before.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. No one's ever asked me that before. What do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want with this life?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and most people can't answer it right away. Like, oh, I got it. Right. It's a rhetorical question. It's something that for my coaching clients, it's homework. You got to sit with this. You got to mull this over.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it. What energizes you? What feels meaningful to you in your life? What brings you meaning and purpose? But beyond purpose, because purpose does change, it's meaning. What is meaningful to you? What feels alive to you? Because they become really good at fulfilling obligations and doing the do and being busy, busy, busy. And that is very distracting and can feel good in a certain way because that's purpose. But then we move beyond purpose into finding meaning. And I think it's the psychological stages of life, Eric Erickson's stages, I think we move into as we get older. We do move into more of what is this life all about, appropriately so. Most of us are, well, I would hope, but most of us are going to ask ourselves these questions at some point in our lives. The later stages of psychological development is altruism, a sense of giving back, because we look at our lives and we try to get back to those who are behind us and go give to those less fortunate, because we now really do see that we are in the sunset of our lives. The sun is going down and that we will die.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you're a big longevity person, which we're interested in that, and a wellness person. Yeah, wonderful, great. We're all going to die.
Yeah.
We are not.
The end is the same.
Yeah,
regardless of the path.
It does, right. And even
Yeah.
if we live to be 100 or 105, what's that life like? You're going to die.
Yeah.
And what are you leaving behind?
Yeah.
And that's what people are looking for. That at least come to me. That's a lot of the conversations we're having. I think that, and I have to say this, I see this quite a bit with my high functioning women, my female clients. I'm seeing it with them more than with men. Men, it's a little different. They deal with the similar issues. The women I work with are highly capable and they get stuff done. I mean, they get stuff done, right? People rely on them. They are productive, competent, responsible. They're dependable, right? And those qualities really get rewarded in their professional lives and in their personal lives, but here's the trap for many of them. The skills that help you build a successful life are not always the same skills that help you feel connected to it. So you can become really good at managing your life, right? And managing all the details of your life, that you can stop living your life. And I've kind of done this myself, doing all the things and got to do this and this time block and this on this, at this time I have to do this. And it's like, you and I have talked about this, like, where have the days gone? Where have the weeks gone? And I'm like, what have you been doing? Well, I've been I feel like a robot. I'm like a hamster on the treadmill.
You're just on autopilot.
I'm on
much
autopilot.
of the
I've got my
time.
schedule. I've got my work. I've got all the things I do within my work. And it's like, and, we eat dinner, and then maybe we'll watch a show. Then I read. Then I go to bed. And you wake up, 5:30 alarm goes off or 6 a.m.
Do it again.
and right back at it. And you're the same.
Yeah.
We're like right back at it.
I mean,
and
most
there is
people,
comfort in that.
Well, and most people, right? Is it safe to say most people, that's how it goes?
The kids wake up, you get up, my clients with little children, kids, I'm like, get up, you get up half an hour before them, you get up, they have their coffee,
Yeah.
they drink their tea, they have their quiet time, maybe they'll meditate, maybe they'll say their prayers. It's a wonderful way to start your day. And they'll say, Anna has been doing the same thing for 10 years now. Like, I'm sick of my routine.
Yeah.
I'm sick of it. And that's what I'm talking about. Something that's deeper inside of us that not everybody does feel this way. You're right. To your point, because not everybody has this experience. I see quite a bit of it. And I think there are more people who are not, who do feel this way at some point in their lives, right?
Yeah.
It's like I have felt like the project manager of my whole existence. And sometimes you get tired of project managing, not just your work life, but your personal life, right? And women do this quite a bit because we have more of the mental load. We're the ones we see the child is sick, we try to figure out if we can take time off of work to take the child, the baby, the kid to the doctor. We're the one who has to get the forms done in before they can start football camp. We're the ones like we're the ones who are also like making sure, hey, if you called your parents this week, you need to call your parents. I'm not even just managing me, I'm managing you because I know I do that with you. Have you talked to your parents this week? Looking at vacations. What are we going on vacation? Women do all of that. Mostly it's not men. Some cases, some families, it is the men, but by and large, it's women who are doing this. And it's a
Yeah.
massive load in our brains, and we get really good at it. Like I take pride in how I raise our family. Like I look back and I cannot believe, but I was so in it. You just did do it. I remember my mom saying when I had my first baby, and I'm like, how did you do this? I don't know how you do. I work full time. I had no idea what it was like to have a newborn who just came in and like wreaked havoc on my life with the sleep and newborns. And she said, you develop a routine and you just do it. She's like, you got to get into a routine and you just do it. And that's been the course of the last 30 plus years of my life, and I took pride in that. I actually, with the 5 kids, don't know how I spent almost a part-time job doing triathlons and seeing people in my office. I don't know how I did it.
Yeah.
And for some of those years, I actually worked in the oncology clinic at Highland Park. Like I saw cancer patients, I saw people in my office, my private practice people. And then I was up early in the morning swimming or biking or running, whatever we were doing, I was doing. And it was all solo because when I got more serious with triathlon, it was all solo training because I had to do my own
Yeah.
workouts for my own
But
abilities.
by necessity.
I don't know how we had a marriage. I don't know how we did it. We did it. And that was insane.
Yeah.
And I think it kept me very, very, very busy. And it probably, but that was my 30s and that was my 40s. And that was a time of being able to do all the things. I don't want to do that today. And thank God I'm not. I don't work in oncology anymore. I just in my practice. There's other things in the business that are very busy, but the kids have all moved on. Nobody lives here anymore. There's one who comes back during the school year, but they pretty much are living their own lives. And I'm not doing triathlon. We're doing other running and doing a lot of strength training, but we've moved away from triathlon. Thinking about going back to it, but I'm not sure if that's the right decision for me right now, but I am thinking about it before I completely 100% hang it up. And I think that took up a lot of space in my brain. And it kept me from probably asking myself the deeper question because that in and of itself gave me purpose and meaning. The purpose was to get through today, to get through this week. The purpose was to make sure I went out. My friends Saturday night, Sunday was Sunday, then on to the next. And now I think for life has slowed down a little bit in some ways. And I have found over the past 6 years that I've struggled to be in my life and live my life for myself.
Yeah. It's just different, right? Time spent is just spent differently.
Well,
now.
And I think we're pretty good at finding joy because we are 2 people who love humor and love to laugh. Laughter is everything to me, and humor is everything. And I think that has been there for the most part, but maybe not always joy.
Yeah.
Didn't find joy in life. I wasn't joyful. I didn't think life was about joy. I don't think it's realistic either. I think that's toxic positivity for a lot of us. We're not always joyful.
Yeah.
But I have found myself over the years thinking, of course, we have a sense of humor, but not always being full of joy. And I think that doesn't mean that any of us is failing. I think that we and I have become disconnected from my own lived experience. Like, just do the do your work,
Yeah.
do your work, do your work, right?
Yeah. I mean, and why do you do that? Right? Like, what's the goal?
Right.
For you? Like, what is the goal? Like, is it retirement? Is it nest egg? Is it being able to put yourself in a spot for air quote success in your 70s, 80s, 90s? Like, is that
Yeah.
the goal? Right.
It's interesting because my former business coach, I may have mentioned it on here before. She said the same. She would say, we would talk about my goals, right? As coaches do, talk about goals all the time with my clients. You know, she would say, "What's your goal?" She was like, "Do you?" And it was a great compliment. She was like, "Anna, you could be the next Mel Robbins." She was like, "You're actually a lot like her in personality." But I think she's I don't really, I don't. She's not a therapist. She's a former attorney, and she's a motivational speaker. But I got which because I have my beef with Mel Robbins because that let them theory us therapists. Oh my gosh, there's
We
so
all know
many.
that.
I know there's so many better books out there. It's all about boundaries, and I get that people appreciate that.
Yeah.
But she would say you could be the next Mel Robbins. Do you want to do that? Do you want to? Do you want to never see your husband and never be at your? She has this beautiful home in Vermont. She's like, how often is she there? She works all the time. She's the same age as you. Do you want that? Do you want to be always on social media? Do you always want to be going, traveling, doing all the things? And I thought I did. And I thought, do you want that fame? Do you want to be have haters? Do you want all that? You know, and do you want to make the money? She makes great money. Go write some books. You could probably write some books. You can do all those things. There's no reason why you can't.
Sure.
And I am like, I don't know if I want that. As I'm getting older, I don't know that I want. Maybe in my 30s I would have had more of a desire for that. I would have been more ambitious. But I'm like, no, I don't really care about being known like I could give a crap about being known like that. What matters to me is so you said, what do you want? Retirement, yes. Money to spend in retirement that we can be comfortable because I have had major money scarcity issues and fears around money, major. That's my anxiety, and that's my anxiety that comes out. My anxiety becomes fear, and I have had been very focused on money, just being and not rational and getting a little delulu about it over, and you know that delusional. I've worked on that. That has calmed down. Like I think about my parents and what brought seemed to bring them a sense of purpose and meaning and happiness. It was well, first of all, interestingly enough, my father was a successful and did very well as an orthopedic surgeon in Maryland outside of DC. And he retired at 65. And I did not think he should retire. I was in my 20s. I did not think he should retire. He still had good hands. He was a great surgeon. He was a back specialist. And he retired because he was tired of that was when the HMOs were taking over. Insurance was taking over and not paying him what he thought he should be paid. He was always complaining about these insurance companies. And I thought, Dad, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. What are you doing? You know, why don't retire? He's like, I'm not going to let them tell me. And I get it. I get it. He would complain that these doctors from like let's say Humana would call him and they were not orthopedic surgeons, but they would read the case and they would tell him, "We don't think that patient needs surgery. We want the patient to try physical therapy first. We want the patient to maybe see a physiatrist, like what our daughter is, before surgery." And he's like, "Why think this patient needs surgery?" So he would go crazy because he's like, "I have a general practitioner working at Humana, Aetna, you name it, United Healthcare, telling me that this patient doesn't need surgery. The patient needs surgery. The patient's already done this and done that."
Yeah.
And it happened over and over and over. He retired. And he retired and then he kept himself busy. My mother was very worried because she's always been a stay-at-home mother. She's very worried about having him home all the time and kind of getting up in her business because she was like the ruler. She ruled the roost. And I worried that he would not find things to do. Well, thank God he had so many hobbies and he kept himself very busy with all his hobbies and he volunteered at the free clinic serving the immigrants. He did good work. He did a lot of really wonderful volunteer work. But I did not think he should retire. He should have done all that, but done it later, pushed it back. Maybe work until you're 70, because I think it gave him such a sense of purpose and meaning. And then when they did retire, they spent years just really reveling in the house. We had a pool in the backyard in the summers. The grandchildren were all over. I think it made him very happy and contented. I don't know if I think that's what I want, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm trying, what would bring me joy? What would bring you joy? What would bring us peace and just satisfaction in life?
Right.
And I don't know what the answer is, but I'm thinking about it and sort of grappling with it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and the people that I'm working with are not quite there though. I mean, I coach clients who come to me who are going into retirement. That's why they work with me. I'm going to retirement. I don't know what my next chapter looks like. I'm a little freaked out about it for the reasons I just said. I don't know what I'm going to do now because I've worked for 40 years at the same company and that has been a huge part of my identity. And I have a work wife. I've got a work husband. I've got my work family. And now I'm going to lose them. I didn't realize, a huge part of who I am. Now what am I going to do? Yeah, I can coach you on that. That's very, very common. But this is a little different. These are people who are maybe they're not in retirement and they're still hitting that existential, what am I doing? Like what I'm just like a hamster on the treadmill.
Right.
And I want to get off this ride. But if I get off the ride or I get off the roller coaster that's up and down and up and down and upside down and going really fast, if I get off it, what is there?
So let's go back to the blueprint real quick, right? Because everything you just described has been the forever dream, right? Build yourself up to retirement age, be comfortable, be financially secure, be able to enjoy yourself when you're in your 70s and 80s. Your health starts to decline, but yet you've got your family around you and you've got enough finances or a situation where you're okay and you can then that's the tail end of your existence.
Right.
So
Right.
so that's how it's been since forever, right? So you've got this whole younger generation now that is trying to shift that, right? The focus is on work-life balance. Let's not work 5 days a week, 12 hours a day. Let's take one day and it's a remote day, right? Where it's not so difficult at work, right? It's not as chaotic at work. There's a whole agenda out there to have part of your retirement happen when you're 22, right? Like you take a year off and you do retirement at 22 when you're capable and physically capable of doing, you're not financially capable. Somehow you figure it out, but because you're physically capable and mentally capable, you do that and you enjoy. So there's a shift in the thought. And this is where I'm thinking the blueprint now is starting to kind of change a little bit, right? Because then defining success and all the anxiety that you're talking about and describing, I don't think we know yet how that's going to be when you get into your 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s for this particular generation, because they're coming up with a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Right? Their plan is very different. I spent part of my retirement already when I was 22, 23, 24, 25, not waiting and building and working and all the stuff and hoping like crazy that when I get to be 70, it's all going to work out for me. I'm going to actually take the steering wheel and I'm going to drive it this way for a second. And I'm going to make it different for myself. Now, is that going to work out? You and I won't be around to see it. We won't know. You know what I mean? Maybe.
I think that there's a cultural issue here too. I mean, I think that we're all sort of living through, if you're paying attention to what's going on in the culture, and the zeitgeist is all this wellness and all this optimization, which I've talked about. And I know people don't agree with me, and that's okay. You don't have to agree with me. I like optimization. I'm all about that as well. Don't get me wrong. I did a post on it and people gave, which is interesting. I appreciate the pushback because it's the flip side of the conversation, which I love dialogue and conversation around this. But I think we're living through something as a culture. We have more information than ever before, right? I mean, I think that more self-help than ever. It used to be the self-help section at Barnes & Noble and Borders bookstore, right? Even before Amazon.
It was tiny.
Well, no, it got pretty big because I used to go over there and check out, because we consider that pop psychology. We'd go over there. I'd go over there and look and see what books were popular and what they had to say.
Yeah.
There's there's over 4 million podcasts. How many therapy and coaching podcasts are out there today? I don't know. I mean, I've lost count. There's more books, right? There's more optimization than ever. We both of us have data watches on. This thing, what does it do? It does our sleep. It does our steps. It has my VO2 max on here, which is pretty cool. I kind of love it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
It's got my VO2 max. It's got my
rate,
swim,
all your things.
Swim, bike, run. It's got indoor bike on my trainer. It's got outdoor biking stats. I can sync it up with my power meter on my bike. It can tell me my watts, my power, and it's unbelievable. It's the coolest thing ever. I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to not do this. So, and I would say we get to a point where I've told you on the podcast before, my coach would say to all of us, everybody take your watches off. Go for a 6-mile run and take your watches off and try to run without music. I could never do that because I love my music. But take that freaking watch off because especially triathletes, and we're really into the data, really into our data. It can become the bane of our existence, and it can bring about diminishing returns if you're so focused on the numbers, data. But if you're a data geek, that's going to be really hard for you.
Yeah.
Because we've got all this tracking and all this productivity. We've got more advice than ever. I mean, that's why on social media, I don't follow, because I love TikTok, but I don't follow life coaches, any sort of coach. I don't follow any coach. I don't follow therapists. I don't want to follow people in my fields. First of all, I just don't want to listen to it. I don't want to feel like I'm at work. I follow lawyers. I follow, other things that I think are really, and all the fun, funny, cute stuff, babies.
Yeah. Because some of
horses,
that stuff
cats.
is risky, right? You don't know if somebody's qualified to tell
Be
you
careful.
anything.
And much of it sounds clickbaity. It's
Yeah.
clickbaity. And that's why I'm not really good at it. I don't have a huge following because everything is nuanced for me. I've been doing this for 30 years. It's hard for me to get out there. I speak and I say when I'm on there on Instagram or TikTok, listen, I'm speaking in generalities. This may not be specifically for you. Not everybody has gone through what I'm saying. And you may disagree, and people do disagree, especially on TikTok. I don't know, first to let you know.
Yeah.
But there's so much information out there for you, right? And I think that people are feeling increasingly disconnected. And this has been sort of a theme here on the podcast. And why is that? Because I think so many of us have been obsessed with improving our lives. Obsessed. Improvement. Got to improve. Got to get better. Right? We've forgotten how to live in our life, how to inhabit our life. Right?
So are you obsessed with the improvement because of the ultimate goal? Is that the obsessed moment? Right? You're not obsessed with living life.
I think
to
it gives
get
me,
there.
well, I think it's distraction for today because I am genuinely just interested in my data.
Yeah.
The goal is also to be healthy and to try not to get cancer.
Well,
for me, it's to be healthy and to try not to get cancer because cancer is everywhere. I've had cancer already. I've had melanoma, and you've had cancer. You've had lymphoma. So I am worried about that because those cancer cells are in us. I'm just hoping to God that they stay dormant for the rest of our time on this earth, that we don't die from cancer. So for me, I am incentivized for me and you to be healthy. So wellness is important to me, and eating right and fitness, because I want us to not get sick with cancer.
Sure.
I'm terrified of it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah. And so the risk is like, okay, live your life. So the nutrition aspect and the fitness aspect, all of that stuff, live your life so you can hopefully change the course down the road, which, that's a whole nother podcast to itself. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But maybe the point should be like, live your life.
Experience our lives.
There you go.
We've become
it's
experts.
The journey along the way. Like, be good with the data to be able to use it to get to this goal at the end of the tunnel, and enjoy the tunnel.
But we get caught up in the management.
Yeah.
We're in the tunnel. Well, let's say we're on a path, and let's say you're on a beautiful trail in the mountains, but you're like staring at the trail.
Yeah.
You're staring at the trail. You're saying what's in front of you, but it's like, pick your head up. Look around.
There you go.
Look at the trees. Look at these gorgeous trees. Look at the leaves. Look at the shape of the leaves.
Yeah.
Look at the squirrels over there. Oh, those are a darker color than from where I live in my part of my neck of the woods in this country.
Yeah.
Those ones are black. We don't have those. Like, pay attention. Look at the flowers. Look at what's growing.
Yeah.
Just notice that tree that fell down. Notice the hollowness of it and wonder about what animals live in there. Like, this is meditation. And this is quieting ourselves and slowing down and learning to notice. This is meditation.
Right.
This is like, that could be like a walking meditation, or take the time to pray. And however you want to think about that and however you do that, it can be a religion. It doesn't have to be a religion. Find a way to pray. And I said this before the podcast, and I love this. Carrie Walsh Jennings, who was on the U.S. beach volleyball Olympic team. Her with forget her partner, won gold in Rio when they won gold twice. And she was on a
That's right.
podcast and she was talking about prayer and spirituality. And she was telling the host, I grew up Catholic. And she said, and he said, how do you take care of yourself? Like your spiritual life, or how do you prepare for, or he was talking kind of about sport. It was a sports podcast, sports psychology podcast. And she said, and I do this because I loved it. It was such great insight. She said, prayer is when I talk to God. I pray every day and I talk to God. I talk his ear off. And meditation, she goes, I meditate, but meditation is when I listen. I listen to God, the Holy Spirit talking to me.
Yeah.
So prayer is when I talk, all the things. Meditation is when I listen. And I do that. I thought that was beautifully said. I'd never thought about it like that before. So that has been very, very important for me in this journey of go, 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 go.
Yeah.
To take the time, and with my ADHD mind, and I'm high energy. I love to go, 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 to force to sit my butt down in a chair in the mornings, like we'll do separately though, and to meditate and to pray and to meditate and just to sit and to focus on my breath.
Yeah. Shut everything out. Yeah.
And that over time gives me a sense. We talked about gratitude, and it gives me a sense of purpose, but it also has calmed down my anxious mind to bring me out of all this questioning that for this episode that I have done and my clients have done and do.
Right.
Right. Because we are experts at managing our lives, many of us, but we've gotten away from experiencing our lives. Right. And sometimes we're so focused on being a better version of ourselves that we stop being ourselves.
Right. I think that the visual that you gave about walking down the path, instead of staring at the path, stare at the mountains, stare at the clouds, stare at the whatever, anything that's around you, like, that's gorgeous, probably, right? Like, it doesn't really matter which path you're on. It doesn't matter if you're 22 and taking that strategy to attack life, or you're 60 and you've taken a different path, right? But the point is, to what you said is, like, regardless of the path, like, enjoy the path. Enjoy the
no matter where you are,
go down it. Yeah.
If you're on a balcony in your apartment building, if you're in the city, if you're in rural areas, look up.
Yeah.
That's what I do. Like, look up, look at the sky. Have you ever, remember we were little kids? I remember being a little kid lying in the grass, staring at the clouds. Look up, stare at the clouds, look at the formations. Are there clouds in the sky? What do they look like? What kinds of clouds are they? Look at the clouds.
Yeah.
Look up. Look at the trees. Look at the trees that are all around you, these living things that are all around us.
Right.
Look at the leaves.
Well, and the metaphor of life is that look up at the people around you, right? Like, look up and enjoy the other characters in your life and the relationships and all of that stuff. Right. That's really what we're talking about,
So when someone will say to me, like, my life feels off, things will feel off, they often come to me because there's some sort of pain, and they assume, Anna, my life feels off. And they assume something is wrong with them. Okay, something's wrong. And I think the better question is really, what might this feeling be trying to tell you? What is this feeling you're having? What is it trying to tell you? That's a better question, because maybe it's not a problem. Maybe it's information. And I always think it's information. You feel this? Okay. There's some information here we can work with. We can work with this. Maybe your life is asking you for something, and you can think that that's spirit, that's the universe, however you want to think of it. It's asking you to go deeper. It's asking you for something. And that's why I say, like, it's not necessarily to get separated, get divorced. Your marriage is fine. It's not a new career. It's not necessarily a complete reinvention of yourself, right? Sometimes it's just asking for something much simpler from you, more honesty with how you're living your life and how you're interacting with the people in your life. Maybe it's asking for more play. Maybe you need to play more. Maybe you need to go back to your inner child. That's the inner child work I do with my clients. Go back to your inner child. Remember that 6 and 7-year-old little boy and girl. Remember what they were like?
Yeah.
Remember that kid? That kid's still in you. And that kid loved to play. What did you play when you were 6? What did you play with your friends? Maybe it's more play. Maybe it's more rest. Maybe you need to rest and digest. Maybe you need to be more in your parasympathetic nervous system.
Jump
And
off the
that's
treadmill for a second.
and by the way, that's the group coaching cohort that's starting in July. So if you're interested, email me. Just put in the word, just write the word quiet, quiet, and I will know because it's quiet the noise. And we are going to delve into nervous system regulation, emotional regulation. I'm going to teach you the skills and we're going beyond. Okay. So if you're interested in group coaching, we're going to talk about this. All right. So the information's in the show notes. So for many of you, maybe it's just more rest and not having guilt and not feeling guilt about taking that rest. Maybe for some of you, I think it's more creativity. Like you've lost that creative part of you that loved to use your mind in a creative way, maybe when you were younger, maybe when you were in college. And it's, where is it? Do you know how many people over the years I've sent to take art classes because that's what they love to do, or they were always been curious about it and interested and wanted to learn to draw or to paint? All right, that's your action step. You are looking for a drawing class. Look for in the towns, the communities around you,
Yeah.
or you're going to
Slice it
do
up.
one online. You're going to find one online if you're in a rural community. That's what you're doing. You're going to go to Michael's, you're going to go to an art store, and we're going to make this a fun project. You're going to get paints, you're going to get paper to paint on, you're going to get whatever paper you want, and you're going to journal. You're going to find a great new journal. This is your fun field trip. This is what you're going to do.
Do you remember when we had all our friends over and we did a painting?
Oh, yeah, because that was really popular. Yes, that was a couple years ago. It was so fun.
I
It was
mean,
so fun.
that was a step away from like the norm, right?
We had a couple friends over, about 8 of us, and this is very popular on TikTok, and that's where I got the idea from. You had to paint your partner. So everybody had their little canvas, 8.5 by 11, 9.5 by 11 piece of paper on canvas. I bought them and I went to Michael's and I got paints, and you had to sit across from your person and draw them. We had such a blast. We were crying, laughing, howling
Yeah.
at how we drew each other. So they were hysterical, but what a fun night that was.
Yeah.
And we've all still have them. That was such a fun night. So that's actually a really great thing to do with friends or do with your family members. We need to do it with the kids because it would be hysterical, and so, but that's often get into that. Many of us have lost that creative side that like, yeah, I did used to do that when I was a kid. I was a little girl. I used to love to color. Go get some. They have adult color. They have great adult coloring books out there now. Just go online. Go to an art store. I go to Michael's. You can get them on Amazon.
Are those the ones with the pencils? Is that
No,
what you're talking about?
and I buy a huge thing. You throw on my desk a huge thing of colored markers.
Yeah.
And go get excited. Go buy some colored markers. If you go start coloring again, and that is very therapeutic. We used to have. I mean, when I used to run groups way back when I was in eating disorders, and we had like a recreation activity, and I would often help out if for some reason the therapist couldn't be there because they're running another group, the recreation therapist, and I would be there with them. I'm like, all right, everybody, we're coloring today. It's so funny. I mean, these are mostly teenagers, and 95% were women, young women, teens in their 20s, and it was amazing to see that the quiet in the room. Everybody would choose. If we had papers, they would choose something they wanted to color. They would choose all their colors, or they would be in the middle of the table. Some people would go and sit on the ground, and put their paper on the coffee table. Some people would sit at a desk. Some people would be over in the corner and in a comfy chair. And I would watch them relax. I would watch all these patients. This is an inpatient unit. And I would watch them all relax, and it would get quiet. And everybody would just get into coloring and choosing their colors and what color do I want to paint this part? What color do I want to paint this part? They were so, we call it flow. They were so in the flow. They forgot about the problems for a minute. They forgot about why it was they were there. And I would get into it. And then taking that to the next level when the art therapist would work with them. And I was always wanting, if I had time, if I wasn't in a session myself, I'd watch this one art therapist, Jerry, who was so talented. And Jerry would work with these patients, and they got to choose their medium. And so I'd watch some color. Some would draw, some would like do something with things, sculpture, and how he would take them through psychology of whatever it was you were dealing with. I remember this one patient came here. She moved as a young child from Poland, and her issues with her mother and her experiences in Poland and her memories, some trauma, PTSD, she had serious PTSD. and she'd work it through in what she was coloring. And she was talking while she was coloring. Jerry was helping her through it. He brought out, and I knew her. I was working with her.
Yeah.
I was doing therapy. I was a therapist.
Yeah.
And I ran groups that she was in. And I knew her in a one way as her therapist. And we were very close, tight. And I asked her if I could come. She's like, absolutely. And I went and I just watched this art therapy session as she colored. And I thought, holy crap. He brought out in her parts of her memory and her mind, things that would never come out in a traditional psychotherapy setting. It's fascinating. So all that to say, I'm kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent because that's the beauty and the art and the science of art therapy, that what it does for people. So many of us have lost this sense of creativity and connection to ourselves, And that's why it's like, and we need more courage in our lives to start something new, to join the pickleball group, to join an art class. We need that courage. We got to get it back. And that's what I think we're missing. Like, my life is fine, but something feels off. We need to add something in. Right? So sometimes that feeling, it's not telling you to blow up your life, right? It's telling you, come back to it. Come back to you. Come back to remembering you. Maybe that little girl, that little boy, what you love to do. I love playing baseball. Then maybe you need to coach a baseball team. Maybe you need to coach Little League.
Yeah.
Maybe you
lots
need
of options for
yes,
that. You could
and
find
always,
things to jump into like that.
They need refs. They're always needing
all
refs,
the time.
right?
Yeah, for
but
sure.
It gets you back there at the Park District baseball field behind the home plate. There you are with these kids. Okay, so if this is you, if any of this resonates for you today, if this is you, your life really does look fine on the outside, but feels off to you. And here's a few questions for you to consider for you to consider. Okay, so this is I'm going to coach you up here. All right. Number one, what part of my life feels most alive right now? What part of my life feels most alive right now? Not productive. No. We're not talking about productivity. Not impressive and not performative. Alive. Next question. What am I doing because I genuinely want to? What am I doing because I genuinely want to? Right? And what am I doing because I've just always done it? Very different there. What am I doing because I genuinely want to? Next question. Where am I operating on autopilot? Where in my life am I just operating on autopilot? Like, when you have the same routine every morning, get up, get in your car, drive to work. You could do that on autopilot. You actually, sometimes you get to work, you get to the gym, and you're like, whoa, I don't remember driving here because I was so in my head the entire way. Right?
Like, the car took me there.
The car took me there.
Yeah.
Where am I? Think about that for your life. Where are you operating on autopilot? Next question. What have I outgrown? And this is a powerful question, everyone. Sometimes we haven't failed our old life. We've just simply outgrown it. So what have I outgrown? Sit with that, all right? Some of you are going to have to really sit with this one and go journal about it.
Is he suggesting that's something that if you've outgrown it, it's time to
make a change,
put it away,
find the courage? Maybe you need to make a change. And I don't know for you, if you want to work with me, that's what I'm going to work with you on. We're going to coach up on that.
Yeah. Because that's
how I coach my clients. So I don't know for you, but if you're a coaching client, we're really going into this.
Yeah.
We're taking this apart.
Because that might be the hardest thing of all the things you said so far. I think that's the hardest
I think this is the most powerful question and a hard one. Yes.
Yeah.
What have I outgrown? And the last question is, what am I postponing until later in life? Joy, creativity? Am I postponing travel, connection with others? Am I postponing rest? I see that all the time. What are you waiting for permission to experience?
Yeah.
What are you waiting? Because without guilt, without shame. So what are you waiting almost to give yourself permission to experience? Stop waiting. Don't wait. All right.
Hey, could we add another one? I mean, could we add, like, for that last question, what are you waiting for? Like, what are you postponing? Like, maybe the other question is why? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And did somebody tell you that that's how it should be? Or right? I don't know.
What messaging is going on inside of yourself? This is what I get into with coaching.
Yeah.
Because we really need to look at that, because I find that we have a lot of messages, and some of it's Yeah, that's a whole other conversation, which is a very interesting one, but we don't have time to get into that. But you're bringing up something really important. What's the messaging and where did you
Yeah.
hear that messaging? Why is that the message you're telling yourself?
Yeah.
So if your life looks fine on the outside but feels off, I want you to hear this in closing. You do not need to justify your discomfort to anyone. You don't need a crisis to pay attention to yourself. You don't need a catastrophe before you're allowed to ask yourself the deeper questions of your life. Sometimes our sense of dissatisfaction, it isn't evidence that you're ungrateful about the life that you have. It's evidence that you're evolving. You're actually evolving.
Mm.
But we sometimes fail to see that. Sometimes that feeling that something is off, it isn't a sign that you're failing. You're not failing. It's a sign that you're evolving, you're waking up. And maybe the goal isn't to immediately fix that feeling. We're not going to fix. It's to listen to it. Listen to the feeling because it might be pointing you towards a life that doesn't just look good on paper. It's a life that actually feels like yours. So if this episode at all resonated for you, share it with someone whose life looks fine from the outside, but who might be quietly wondering why they're still feeling unsettled. And if you're ready to stop overthinking, stop carrying everything by yourself, and learn the practical tools for finding more clarity and peace in your life, check out my Quiet the Noise coaching program. The link is in the show notes. Email me the word hello at Anna Marcolene. Email me the word quiet, and I'll get you on the waiting list, okay? Thanks for listening. I hope that this is helpful to all of you. And mad love. Until next week. Bye.